Australia. The land of opportunities offers much more to aspiring immigrants than you would imagine. Great lifestyle, career opportunities, work-life balance, affordable quality education, social security and health benefits, incredible sports facilities, and world-class living, just to name a few. Australia has a strong economy and low unemployment rate, and offers salaries that well justify your professional credentials and expectations. Are you a skilled immigrant struggling to find your perfect job in Australia? Have you applied for several jobs and getting very few to no interview calls at all? Have you been interviewed but consistently getting rejection letters and wondering why? Are you a resilient professional who is really serious about investing your time and money in quickly finding your dream job? It doesn't matter whether you're in Australia or overseas. We are here to help you. Based in Melbourne, Career Launch Australia is a professional career mentoring service offered to global skilled immigrants to secure their perfect Australian job in weeks instead of months, and getting paid what they deserve, even if they don't have local experience. Immigrant coaching is much more than just career coaching. It involves understanding the mindset and thought process of individual immigrants at an emotional level, and professionally helping them with their job search. Empathy and heart-to-heart connection is crucial for immigrant coaching, and you will surely notice it in CLA consultants. Qualified professionals who have already got their Australian PR, work visa, or those who have applied for Australian PR and are likely to get their visa in the near future, proactively start working with CLA and acquire job search breakthrough techniques. This often results in them quickly securing the job they love after they migrate to Australia. CLA's proven success blueprints offers immigrant professionals practical tools and mindset they need to quickly succeed in their new life and career in Australia. CLA has been marketing their clients successfully into their preferred careers since more than 10 years, giving them both competence and confidence to win the high-paying positions they deserve. Our fully customizable mentoring package includes executive resume writing, LinkedIn profile, interview preparation, addressing key selection criteria, salary projection and negotiation, and most importantly, strategic networking techniques and connecting you with industry connections. A study shows that recruiters spend only 6 seconds reviewing an individual resume. Does your resume stand out in 6 seconds? On an average, every corporate job receives around 250 applications. Does your application hit the nail on the head? 89% of recruiters report hiring candidates through LinkedIn. Does your LinkedIn profile attract interest? 92% of employers and recruiters hire or plan to hire candidates through networks or referrals. How many recruiters do you know? 85% of critical jobs are filled via networking of some sort. Do you know how to strategically network with the right people and access the hidden job market? Average Australian full-time salary is $5,000 a month. You're losing this huge amount every month you're jobless for, and you're using your own hard-earned overseas money to survive in Australia. Could you afford to sustain this double loss? Time is ticking, so don't wait any further. Come and have a chat with us to quickly secure your dream job.
Welcome to this live simulcast of Career Launch Australia. My name is Rajiv Vedse. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others, said Mahatma Gandhi. Today, I'm in conversation with Darren Saul, who strongly believes in this philosophy. Darren is the director of Saul Recruiting and has over 20 years of industry experience. Darren works with many organizations across Australia for sourcing quality talent in the IT support and infrastructure areas with specialty in managed services for both permanent and contract roles. In real sense, Darren has proved himself to be a subject matter expert in the recruitment industry. The one thing you will instantly notice in Darren is his wonderful smile. I'm tempted to call him Darren Smiling Soul. Darren, thank you for your time and welcome to Career Launch Australia.
I love that, Rajiv. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here. What a lovely introduction.
Thank you so much. You deserve it, Mike. You have earned it.
Thank you very much. That's very nice of you.
So let's begin. I just love the fact that you call your podcasts soul searching. What do you love the most about recruiting?
What do I love about recruiting? Honestly, it's interacting with people. I've always been a people person, and I just love people. I love talking to all sorts of people about all sorts of things. That's another reason why I like podcasting as well. But recruiting is always been able to satisfy that need in me to interact and to help other people as well.
Wow. And you have been doing it for the last 20 plus years.
20 plus years. It's almost, I can't even believe it myself.
I can't believe it too. Viewers, let me share something with you. I called Darren this morning at 9 o'clock just to make sure that everything is okay. Darren did not answer my phone because he was busy. Darren called me at 9:30 and he said, Rajiv, I'm extremely sorry. I couldn't pick your phone. I couldn't answer the phone because I was in a networking event. Who in the world does networking at 9 o'clock in the morning unless you are so passionate about it?
Yep. It started at 7 a.m., finished at
Oh,
9
wow.
a.m.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
What
We
did
went a little bit over time, so that's why I couldn't answer it till about 9:30.
what is the BNI?
It's a company called BX, actually. Fantastic networking group. BX Networking. So big shout out to anyone there that knows of BX. It's a fantastic networking group.
Wow. Now, when I was going through your LinkedIn profile, I just realized that you have made a very, very interesting statement on your LinkedIn profile. You said that I believe that we are in a serious period of quality candidate shortage, and that will only continue to progress in years to come. To be honest, this statement is a great relief for immigrant professionals. But why do you believe so?
Well, I mean, in terms of that statement, it's so apparent these days in the job market and in the recruitment market that good people are becoming harder and harder to find. There are way too few jobs way too many people for the jobs that are here. So there's a lot of competition. And I think it's an opportunity for people either in Australia or people that are coming from overseas, if they can really prepare themselves for the job market and shine, it's a great opportunity to access roles that might not have been as plentiful years ago because of that market shortage.
Well, that's so true. But I'll tell you exactly what happens with people coming from overseas. I mean, look, I have been a good example of that. I worked in India for about 20 years as a civil engineer. Couldn't find a job in civil engineering, and I was just wondering how come civil engineering in India is different than in Australia, unless I go into the building construction industry. But that wasn't necessarily the case. What I realized is that most people ask me for the local experience. Now we work only with the immigrant professionals who are on a PR visa and fresh Australian graduates on a temporary visa. So according to you, how can CLA overcome, or the CLA clients can overcome the no local experience barrier?
Great question. I mean, I get asked this question all the time, and it's something that is so important to discuss. I think it's obviously, when you don't have local experience, obviously you have a slight disadvantage from that point of view. But if you really start to think about everything else that you can bring to the table, then you can try and overcome that by giving so much value on every other aspect of how you present yourself that you can almost overcome that objection if you think of it in that way. But that's the key. Not enough people do the work up front, and not enough people even work or think about or even have the self-awareness, so to use that term, to really understand what they need to do and what their situation is and how they can put their best foot forward. And that's a huge thing. I could go on with job seeking strategies. Maybe we'll cover that a bit later on, of what are some of the key strategies that I think are important to implement to do exactly that. But at a high level, you have to really have a good self-awareness. You have to take a good look at yourself and think about your strengths and try and put your best foot forward to overcome that small objection of no local experience. Such an important thing to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. Akash has got a very good question. He says, why do recruiters ask for local experience? Is it really important, or they just want to filter applicants?
Good question. I mean, honestly, I think in Australia, there seems to have always been a need or a thought process around local experience, that it was so important. So sometimes, we might think that people coming from different countries or in different cultures have a different way of thinking, have a different way of interacting, have a different way of working. They have a different way of interacting with their managers. There are some cultures that aren't as forthcoming when, for example, when they don't know something. There's certain cultures in the world that, are more prone to saving face, for example, than actually admitting that they don't know something and they'd like it reclarified. So that's another one example of what can cause potential issues when you're talking with how managers and employees interact. So I'm just at a high level, there are many different aspects to why certain people might, work well within the Australian workplace. Again, that's not to say that it's the only way and that local experience is the only thing we need. But there are those cultural differences and those, even if they're perceived differences in the Australian mentality.
Right. I always wondered, unless you get the unless you have the experience, you can't get a job, and unless you get the job, you can't get the experience. So how do we get out of that catch-22 situation there?
Yeah, I mean, it does. It is a bit of a paradox. Well, there are a few ways. We'll take the easy way, and this is not the way that I would recommend a lot of people, but one way to get experience would be even to, if you can, come and do 2 or 3 months as an intern. And,
Right.
and understand how things work, the nuances to how things work in the workplace locally. That's one way. But the other way, and probably more beneficial, would be to do the preparation up front. Really get ready, prepare yourself, prepare your story, articulate your story very well, and put your best foot forward so that when you do come here, you stand out still, even though you might not have had local experience. And as well as that, you have mastered or you have strategized the approach that you're going to use when you speak to recruiters and hiring managers. That's another very important strategy, which I'll go through later on. So there's those two ways, and both are very valid. And, different people might be doing different things.
No, you're absolutely spot on, because one of my clients, his name is Vinod, who I interviewed him a couple of weeks ago. Somebody asked him this question about local experience, and he said, I added so much of value to the employer, they did not even ask me about the local experience.
There you go. Exactly. Because his story was articulated. He knew how to sell himself. He knew how to position his experience properly. And then the local experience objection became a non-event. He stood out in terms of being the right person for that job at the right time, and it was a no-brainer. So that's what I mean by pre-preparation. It's so important.
Absolutely. And that is what I have also seen, that people, our clients, most of my clients, they are very, very well prepared before they come to Australia. And, they don't struggle as much with the local experience because, they add incredible value to the employers to start with.
Yep.
That's great. Why do you believe, this is another question I have written down, why do you believe connecting and speaking with recruiters before applying online is the best strategy.
Oh, great. Now, this is one of my favorite topics, and I call this strategy swimming against the recruitment tide. It's a
Right.
phrase I've used years and years ago. I call it swimming against the recruitment tide. Everybody in every job seeker, generally most job seekers fall into the trap of looking at the job boards, sending in a resume, waiting for a response, maybe not hearing a response, and then following up in a few days or in a week, and then wondering why they never got a call back or their application was never entertained. I would challenge job seekers to turn that equation around 360 and really start thinking about things as a marketer. You have to think about yourself. If you're a job seeker, you have to know how to market yourself for success. You are a marketer now, not just a job seeker.
Right.
You're a salesman as well, or a salesperson, but also a marketer. And you have to think about putting together a marketing strategy or a job seeking strategy, in inverted commas, which is a marketing strategy for how you can get more opportunities in front of you. And so what I advocate is that people do as much work up front, obviously on the preparation phase, which is something that we've spoken about and what Career Launch Australia does a lot of. But then when it comes to the actual delivery or the execution of that strategy, I would say that people should try and make phone calls, try and do whatever they can to get in front of the people that can help them before they send in one resume, because that will change the equation totally in the other direction.
Yes, absolutely. I cannot agree with you more. That probably is our strategy as well. The people who are, and I always say to my clients, get a foot in the door. You either talk to the recruiter or you talk to the industry professionals. But I believe that's very important for the job that you're looking for. Wonderful. Yep. You hit the nail on the head.
And I've given that advice to many people, and a lot of people that have come here for the first time and have been struggling to find work. And then within 3 or 4 weeks, they usually ring me and say, Darren, thank you so much. I've got so many interviews. I've had so much engagement. I can't believe it. The strategy works. And it was just a slight mind shift in how you think about yourself in the recruitment or job seeking process. You are a marketer of yourself, and you have to learn how to sell and market yourself and not give the recruiter or the hiring manager all the power.
Absolutely. I worked in the field of sales for about 10 to 12 years here in Australia. And what I realized, Darren, is, even when I was working, I was actually not, even if I was, employed by somebody, I was not actually working for them. I was working in my own business.
Exactly.
And then that's exactly the strategy that I use, when I started working, and when I started advising my clients about the job search. And I realized that you're absolutely right. You need to be a marketer. And I always call it your own new business development. You're developing your own business when you're looking for the job, isn't it?
100%. And I love the way you said that. Even applies to training and development. A lot of people will complain that their current organization doesn't favor training and development. They won't develop them. They won't give them certification opportunities, et cetera, and that's a shame. Absolutely. But it's not to say that you shouldn't maybe think about how you can do something on your own to better yourself and better your chances of either career progression in another organization or a promotion. You have to think about yourself. If nobody else is going to give you that opportunity, you have to create it yourself.
Absolutely. You have to earn it.
You have to earn it.
Yes. Now, one of the questions that I personally also wanted to ask you that ideally at what stage should candidates speak with the recruiters? Very close to the last date of application, or immediately after the job ad has been published, or somewhere in between?
Great. I would even challenge that even further and say these days recruitment is becoming very much a proactive process. So a lot of the times, recruiters are constantly looking for potentially suitable candidates even before a job description has been created and even launched.
Wow.
So my advice is you have to get in front of people that can help you, and they are either hiring managers or recruiters or people like Career Launch Australia, and try and speak to those people before the job description has even been launched or as soon as it's been launched. Definitely not to wait till the last dates, for sure. You have to be proactive as you can, and you have to try and stand out from every other job applicant that is going to be applying. You have to stand out from the crowd. Everybody's here. You have to be different. You have to be the one that they want. And that's where marketing and your strategy, job-seeking strategy comes in. But being proactive is extremely important.
Absolutely. Yes. At CLA, we believe mindset plays significant role in the job searching. I'm not sure how many other coaches are there who emphasize so much on the mindset coaching, but a very integral part of our coaching, our mentoring, is mindset mentoring.
Yep.
What are your thoughts around that? What kind of, how much the mindset plays, how important the role it plays in the job?
I think it's absolutely crucial. I think it's the first thing that everybody should work on. Like mindset is half the battle won. Because you need mindset to prepare your strategy and prepare your application and your how you go about executing that strategy. But you also need mindset in terms of resilience. You might not get the first role that's offered to you. You might not get the first interview accepted. You might not get the first call back, whatever it is. You have to be resilient. You have to be ready for that. And, if you give up after 1 week, you're not going to succeed. So mindset is crucial all the way through the process. And mindset really never stops. Even once you have a job, you always want to better yourself. You always want to get a promotion. You always want to continue to grow. Mindset is involved in that till we, for the end of time. Mindset is our journey forever.
Absolutely. We have a question. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
Go for it.
We have a question from Hita. She says, hello, Darren. What's your advice on career change from purely technical IT job to management fields such as business analyst, project coordinator, etc.? What, according to you, is the best approach?
Great. Okay. This is always an interesting question. And I mean, it's always difficult to transition from one role to another role when you might not have had experience in that role. So if you are a technical person and you want to move into management, the logical step would be to somehow gain some management experience where you are in some way, even if it's in a junior form or a pseudo management form or a leadership form. Do that. And as well as that, you might be able to gain some management or leadership experience in extracurricular activities potentially as well. But you have to show people that you have some management experience or management qualities, because moving from a technical role into a management role without experience from one company to another is very, very difficult.
It's so true. Shubham wants to know what's the best strategy to approach recruiter.
Okay. So I've kind of touched on this, but I'll go a little bit deeper. So I really do, number one, everybody has to really think about their experience and what they're going to be best suited to with their experience, number one. Then you have to have your mindset right, definitely. You have to make sure you've put your resume together properly, make sure it markets you properly. And I always say a resume is not a list of qualifications. A resume is a marketing document. It is a sales and a marketing document, or sales and marketing tool. Whether you have the right font or the right size or a heading here or a heading there, or it's colored or it's not colored, or there's a picture or there's not a picture, doesn't really matter. The key is the overall effect of that resume. Does it sell you? Does it market you? Does it grab attention quickly? And I noticed in your video, it said that recruiters look at a resume within 6 seconds, which is probably right. So you really have to grab people's attention really fast. And so you have to make sure your resume is a marketing document that sells you and markets and sells you properly. So definitely. And then even furthermore, your approach is so important. As I mentioned, don't just send in a resume and wait. You have to try and do your research. You might go to one of the most famous job boards in Australia. It's called Seek. You might go to Seek and you might say, okay, let me do some research and really do some espionage and decide which agencies and which agents within those agencies might specialize in my area. Put a list together. Once you've got a list, start making some phone calls. Say, and have your story prepared. This is another thing. A lot of people, when they get on the phone with a recruiter, they're not prepared. I say, give me a snapshot of your background or tell me a bit about yourself. And people end up going off on a tangent for 20 minutes telling me about little details about job projects or, some version of a software, and totally lost me. Because again, they're not thinking like marketers and salespeople. They're thinking about details and about what they do. So you have to really make sure that you're prepared for that interaction with a recruiter. And the best way to start doing that is to script it. I've had some people actually put a script together and and role play that to yourself and to your friends and to your family. Make sure that you know your story back to front so you can do it in your sleep. Once you're ready for that and it just rolls off the tongue, then you start getting on the phone and you start making those calls and you say, hi, Darren, my name is John, or Mr. Candidate X. I noticed that you're looking for this type of person. I'd love to introduce myself. I've just come. I've got so many years experience in exactly that field, and I think I'd make a fantastic candidate. Can we please discuss this further? What would be a good time? You're trying to find a way to build some interest in your application and in your story. And if you can sell yourself properly, that recruiter will say, fantastic, you've just saved me a lot of work because I don't want to go reading through 100 resumes. If you come to me on the telephone and I think you come across really well, you articulate your story well, you come across intelligent, you've got the right experience, you can sell yourself accordingly, I want to talk to you. I'll say, here's my private email. Please send me your resume and some details, and then let's set up a time to have a meeting. I'll ring you back, or et cetera, et cetera. And so what have you done? You've just moved yourself from the pool of candidates here that's everybody is doing the same thing to someone that's up here because you've differentiated yourself with a totally different strategy. And so that's what I call swimming against the recruitment tide. If everybody's doing that, you should do that. But again, that takes work, that takes practice,
Yes.
a lot of work, but I guarantee it, if you put in the work, you'll get the results.
Absolutely. And that is exactly what we do, Darren, at Career Launch Australia. Our clients know exactly what their answer to tell me about yourself. We do the role play before the actual interview. We also do the mock recruiter call with them. What to say. We have, like you said earlier, we have scripted everything. We have created different scenarios as to what the recruiter will say, how to handle that objection and kind of thing. So absolutely.
Just like a salesperson, when a salesperson trains to be a good salesperson, they have to think about all the potential objections and they have to come up with responses to overcome them. You should do exactly the same here. We're doing the same thing.
Absolutely. Now, Tushar has a question. He says, what value add immigrant candidates can bring on interview table apart from education and functional experience?
Oh, well, I mean, there's, incredible value adds that people come, from different cultures as well. You might bring some amazing cultural aspects to a team and to a role and to a way of thinking about a particular problem in a different way because you have a different way of thinking or you've come from experience that has been a little different. So there's a lot of value adds that people can bring It's just that you have to make sure you can show the recruiter or the hiring manager that you are the right person for the job. You're ready. You're you're prepared, and that you will be successful. So there's a lot of great aspects, and that's not just related to particular experience. The sky's the limit, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Biji has got a very interesting question. She says, why would recruiter ask if the candidate is an Australian citizen or permanent resident, even though the person has the required qualifications and skill set?
Okay, lovely question. I do a little bit of work with an organization that does a lot of work with government departments, and they work with very, very high level departments in high level teams. And to get to work in those teams, you have to have very top level security clearance. And to get that clearance, you have to be a citizen for at least 5 or so years. So there's one example of why people sometimes ask for citizenship, because there's certain criteria within security clearance and other things that people need to have. That's not just available to a resident.
Now, one of the questions that usually I get asked by people, and some of my clients have asked this question to me as well. They're saying that, is it true that employers hire candidates as soon as they find the right talent without waiting till the last date of application?
Yes, I would definitely agree. Like in the old days, I've been around for 20 years in the recruitment industry. In the old days, it was different. They used to say, I want 3 or 4 people to benchmark. We're going to stretch the application to the end of the process, and then we're going to make a decision next Friday or in 2 weeks. But these days, because I mentioned it's such a candidate short market and good people are hard to find, we know that sometimes you might only get one candidate, only one. So if you don't jump on that candidate fast, you've got to start the process again. So it's a very different way of working now. It's a much more agile way, much more proactive way. And if you can show that hiring manager or recruiter that you are the person for the job, they will move your application and hire you very quickly.
So that reminds me of asking you one question. Is there such thing as a perfect candidate when you are actually recruiting people? Do they tick all the boxes that you expect them to tick, or not really?
Yeah, I agree. I'd say it's usually about 80%. You normally tick about 80% of the boxes. Everybody generally puts together a 100% wish list of what they would love, but in reality, we don't always find 100% of those attributes. But 80%, as long as they're the most important ones, usually fit. And that's something that I ask my employers actually and my clients. I say, which of these criteria are absolute prerequisites and which ones are a nice to have?
Okay, all right. LinkedIn. Now, you have done a lot of podcasts on LinkedIn and all that. In the olden days, LinkedIn was not as popular, but now I can see that LinkedIn is a lot of recruitment happens through LinkedIn, and you possibly might agree with this as well. What percentage of, in general, on an average, what percentage of candidate searching happens on LinkedIn by the recruiters?
Oh, you know what? These days, particularly with the recruitment tool, LinkedIn Recruiter, it is almost a daily occurrence that recruiters are looking through candidate lists generated from LinkedIn to source particular candidates that fit certain requirements. So it's almost a daily occurrence that people are on LinkedIn, sourcing candidates on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a very important part of your strategy as a job seeker. You have to have your LinkedIn profile very sharp. Again, it's like your resume. It has to sell you properly. Your LinkedIn profile is your marketing document and your sales document now. It's not just a list of where you've worked and with a picture. Again, it's a whole other ball game because recruiters are living on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Now, you were doing networking this morning. when I called you at 9 o'clock and you said it started at 7:30 and it finished at 9 o'clock, how important recruiting is, how important networking is for the candidates who are looking for the jobs in Australia.
Yeah, I would say it's also very important. You know, in any strategy, you want to try and come at that strategy with a million different angles. You can't always just put all your hopes in one particular strategy. You have to have a multifaceted strategy. So you have to work the job ads. You have to speak to recruiters directly and potentially call hiring managers in companies directly. But you also have to network for sure. As well as that, you have to have a strong LinkedIn profile as well. But networking is very important because you just never know where those opportunities come from. You know, a friend you might meet at a dinner party, even I would call social networking also networking. You might meet a friend or a contact at a dinner party that might be someone that will hire you or know somebody that can hire you. So you just never know who you're going to speak to. And so you always have to have your antennas up and be ready to articulate your story, even at a social event, and even more so at a professional networking event, because networking is crucial as well. You just never know where those opportunities will come from. And at one stage, they used to say that 70% of jobs aren't even advertised. They don't even get to the advertising stage. Why? Because people already know the right person through networking.
You have to create that go-to person, don't you?
Yep. So networking is another very important part of the strategy. And just like I say, I'm a recruiter with a multifaceted candidate searching strategy. Every candidate has to have a multifaceted sales and marketing strategy to market themselves, not just rely on one angle.
You know, you spoke about being proactive in terms of connecting with the recruiters, talking to the recruiters. Do the recruiters receive a lot of phone calls per day, and would they entertain somebody who has called them proactively? Would they really answer the phone? And what do you think?
Like my this is another interesting point. I always return every single phone call. But the funny thing is, a lot of people, and that I'll return a phone call if they leave a message. But the problem is with a lot of job seekers, they don't leave messages. They might ring back once or twice, and they might not leave a message. They might be not confident enough because they think we're not going to pick up, or we're not going to return the call. But again, it goes back to preparation. If you've prepared your story and prepared how you're going to leave that message, then you'll leave it in such a way that we will want to call you back. So that's number one. So definitely, all the job seekers out there, prepare how you're going to leave a message, just like you prepare how to talk to a candidate. Leave a message in a very confident, strategic, and simple, precise manner, and we will call you back. You know, because I will always call back every single candidate that leaves a message. But the problem is not many people do anymore.
That's so true. And what I also realize is that when the recruiters call people, I have seen that many immigrants, they haven't even recorded their own voicemail message. It goes to like a mobile or Vodafone mobile, and nobody likes to talk to a machine to start with.
Exactly. I mean, these are all the little things that you have to really think about when you're marketing yourself as the ideal candidate for a client. I mean, you have to be the one that stands out. So you have to be better than every other person. So all these little things make all the difference.
Cool. There's a question by a girl by the name Namratha. She's saying, is it possible to get sponsored job from recruiters for experienced mechanical design and analysis engineers with more than 12 years experience who do not have work visa? I don't think that's possible, is it?
Tough question for me to answer because I only work in IT. So I really don't know that field at all. That's not really my expertise.
True. All right, let's take some more questions. Is there any priority given to Aussie university graduates over recognized overseas university graduate?
Again, I really think it's how you present yourself. If your resume is precise and it sells you properly, then it will be looked at just like all the other resumes. And again, you mentioned that a lot of the time recruiters will look at a resume within 6 seconds. I will miss candidates that are suitable for a role, whether they're from overseas or whether they're even in Australia, because I might just be skimming over a resume. So regardless of where you're from, you really have to have the right strategy and have the right marketing strategy and the way of executing that strategy.
Hmm.
It really doesn't matter. That's the key is how you come across.
Hmm.
And again, on that point, really interesting. There's so many times that I've missed a resume because the candidate was quite suitable because I've been busy or I've just been inundated with things. I'm only human. We've got absolutely swamped with volume. And a candidate might have rang me back an hour or two later and say, oh, by the way, I sent a message or I left a voicemail or I sent an email a bit earlier with my resume. Did you get a chance to look at it? I said, oh, you know what? I haven't even had a chance yet. I might have missed it. Tell me a bit about yourself. And they would have just saved me from missing them in the application process because they made a call and they were proactive to come to me.
Wow. So important to be proactive.
Proactivity is absolutely crucial. You can't expect that a recruiter has even seen your resume. And we're all human. We might just miss it.
It's so possible. What's important to understand is a recruiter is also a human being and they have their own priorities and things to do.
I mean, if you think of a recruiter these days, we're working on 5 to 10 roles at a time. The amount of applications coming through is extraordinary. We're not machines. We miss things. So if a candidate can come to us with a strong strategy and with a strong preparation process and really knock my socks off, I'll only be too happy because they've just saved me a lot of work.
So even if you use the application tracking software, Darren, these days, you would still be going through at least 10% of the applications, wouldn't you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the volume of applications for every role is incredible.
It's amazing.
Application systems can only, again, they're computers, so they don't tell the whole story. They might just, work on keywords or certain things. But, if someone might have left one keyword out of their resume, but they know and they have that experience, they've just bypassed the applicant tracking system, but that doesn't mean that they weren't the perfect candidate. So that's why, again, you have to be foolproof in a way in your strategy and make sure that you are proactive so we don't miss things and the application tracking system doesn't miss things.
That's so true. There's another question, Darren. Is it possible for an Australian PR holder to get a job from overseas without Australian local experience? Let me answer this question.
Sure.
It's asked by Varna S. Varna, none of my clients or other CLS clients have got any local experience. And we are still able to help them in getting the jobs in their fields, regardless of which field they come from and regardless of which country they come from. So my answer to that is absolutely yes. What do you think, Darren?
Yep, 100% agree with you. Again, I'll bring it back to the same thing. It's how you go about your process, how prepared you are, how you execute on your process. That is the most important factor in all this discussion.
There is a question by Ravi Kiran. It's a long one, so I'll read it out first and then I will display that. I would like to know your methods or tips for immigrants seeking jobs from other countries. For example, I'm currently based in UAE, looking out for jobs in Australia and only want to move with a secure job for obvious reasons. I am looking mainly at power sector jobs. Well, Ravi Kiran, well, you answer the question first and then I'll be happy to take the question.
Sure. I mean, obviously, ideally, you do your very best to work with local agencies or local people that can help you to try and secure work before you move. But sometimes it isn't that easy, and sometimes you might even have to decide to come out for a couple of weeks and interview and try and secure a role while you're here. But nowadays, again, with technology and with Zoom and Microsoft Teams and the way the world has moved in terms of technology and video in the last year, maybe that's going to be easier and easier as opposed to a few years ago, because we are doing things so easily now through video conference, and I do all my interviews through video conference now. So maybe you can start interviewing from overseas. But again, try and speak to the local bodies or the local people that can help you, or local organizations, as well as preparing your story and getting in front of people like me and other recruiters and hiring managers, and trying to set up meetings via video and really selling yourself and moving the process forward that way.
Right. Okay. Who else? Shubham has a question. He's saying, how much value does certifications add to candidates or, freshers profile?
Yeah, great question. A lot of people ask me this, and I always say, certifications are great, but they're not everything. Ideally, if you can have experience and certifications, that's the best combination. But I would always say experience trumps certifications if you're so lucky to have it. If you aren't and you need some certification to even get your foot in the door and establish some credibility, then certainly do a couple of certifications. But I wouldn't fall into the trap of spending a lot of money and time going overboard with certifications, because at a certain point, you need to start getting some experience and building yourself from the ground up. All the certifications in the world might not do that. You need to have to start from the ground up, and you have to break in somehow. Even if it's working on a role that's not exactly related to what you were doing, earning your experience, earning your stripes, and then slowly transitioning back to where you want to be because you've already got some experience. So experience is so crucial. I want people to remember that it's not only about a million certifications, because all the certs in the world without any experience is also not the greatest way to position yourself.
Absolutely. And many people think that the more qualified they are, the better employable they become. But yes, you can't really beat the experience. And in many cases, I believe the expertise is also more important than your experience is, because the world is changing, and in today's day and age, we have computers in the cars.
Yep, we do.
So the more expert you are in everything, rather than just having the experience or the certifications, the better off you will be in terms of your employability.
Definitely. And even expertise, if I can just add, even expertise boils down to how you present yourself. If you are prepared and you're very strategic in your preparation and your execution of your story, you will display expertise more so than if you're not prepared. So again, it boils down to preparation and how you position yourself, because perception is so important as well.
Absolutely. And typically, your mindset will play a very important role. You got to first believe that you are an expert in the field.
Yep, 100%. You have to do your research. You have to, obviously delve into the content as much as you can, understand the industry, understand, any challenges, understand related industries, environments, do your research, be well versed in your area, and then be able to articulate what you know.
Anything, Darren, you think, are there any specific things that the candidate should include or should not include in their resume?
Yeah, one thing I would say is a lot of people, when they have the title of their resume, or, that the top bar of their resume with their name and their contact details and a few other bits and pieces, a lot of people might not even tend to put down what their residency status is. So particularly for people that have a Australian residency, if you've got residency approved, I would definitely put that in the top line of your resume, so people know straight away, this person can work in Australia, no problem. Because a lot of people might not do that, and that might assume that people know or don't know. And if you've come from another country, we don't know what kind of visa situation you have. So if you do have residency, definitely include that, so we can cross that off the list straight away. We know straight away you have working rights. Really important. As far as
go ahead.
Continue.
No, I was saying, don't you think that can actually go against you, because they might look at your residency status and they might think, oh, this guy doesn't have any local experience.
Yeah, like in my view, straight away when you look at a resume, you know if that person has worked in Australia or not, because you look at the first role, first role, the most previous employment history. So straight away you're going to know whether that person has worked here or not. So why not just highlight that straight away, so we know straight away what the situation is. And again, again, this boils down to how you present yourself and how you go about your job search. If you are contacting recruiters proactively, you're not going to wait for them to read that resume for the first time to even know that you're a resident or not. Hopefully you would have had a phone call with them, or you would have had some discussions with them where you've sold yourself already, and that doesn't even play such a big role. But for people that are looking at that resume for the first time, you might as well just put all your cards on the table in a way, because people are going to know straight away what the situation is, and they might be wondering, does this person have working rights or not? I'd rather say yes if I do, because I don't want to miss out.
Okay. All right. Cool. We deal with clients from diverse background, from different fields. And one of the toughest challenges our experienced immigrant professionals, particularly from the IT field, have is dealing with the non-technical recruiters. And the non-technical recruiter cannot give them the idea as to exactly what the role is. The recruiters are not able to articulate what exactly the functions of the role are. At the same time, they do not give you the access to the hiring manager. That's very frustrating for some of the highly experienced professionals. So how do they overcome this challenge?
Yeah, unfortunately, that is the truth. I mean, even me, I've been in the industry 20 years, and I'm still not, I like to say I speak the language in terms of IT, but I don't know what it means. So I know a little bit, and I definitely know what requirements and what technologies are required for certain roles. But even I get stumped sometimes with technical knowledge. But it depends on the recruiter. Some recruiters will be a little bit more astute in that area because they've worked in that area long enough. Some might not be. It also might be the quality of the job description given to them in the first place that they're also working off. But it's up to the candidate really to ask the right questions. And if they can show the recruiter that they may be the right person for the role, that might prompt the recruiter to go back to the hiring manager and even re-qualify a couple of technical things to make sure, because they want to make sure that person is the right. They want to believe that person is the right person. So your approach is so important to all. It's the answer to all these questions. A lot of the time, is your approach.
We have another question from Eob Thomas. He's saying, how can fresh graduates increase chance over experienced person? Well, you tell me what you think, Darren.
Yeah, sure. I mean, again, it depends on the role itself. If the role is looking for someone with so many years of experience, then that's what the role needs. That's what the team needs. There's no time to train that person, and the resources might not be there. So, it's not really even an even playing field. It's like comparing apples with oranges. You know, if your team needs an experienced person, then a fresh graduate is not going to fit. If your role is for a fresh graduate, then that's fantastic. So it's you can't even really compare the two scenarios. You know.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking as well. There is some reason why they're asking for experienced professionals. You can never beat the experience of somebody. If you are a fresh graduate, in that case, you will need to start from scratch, because when you see somebody reaching at some level in their life, they have earned that, that experience. So you
100%.
can't, yes, you can't really beat it.
Graduates have to, if you're a graduate, you have to look for graduate positions. If you're an experienced person, you look for experienced positions. You know, that's just how it works. And you build your experience as you go.
Cool. One more question. Probably we'll just take this as the last question. When in interview stage and you are among top 3 candidates, how do you stand out to be an ideal candidate for the job?
Okay, great question, Akash. Great question. Again, this boils down to your preparation. You know, one thing that is really important is how you question and how you conduct yourself in an interview. They say that intelligent questions build rapport and build credibility like nothing else. So if you can really even have 2 or 3 very intelligent questions that you can ask that hiring manager to allow them to think that you've really been doing your research, you understand the role that you're about to play, you've done your research in terms of the environment, the challenges that might face the company. So if you are prepared and you have the attitude and you show it with an intelligent question, that's a very powerful tool. So intelligent questioning is one way to stand out in a very powerful way. It's one of the most powerful ways. The other one is to be prepared. You know, if you're in that interview process, don't take it for granted that you're going to be moving from one phase of the interview to the next. You have to prepare very well from each phase, one phase to the next. You have to role play. You have to prepare your story in front of the mirror. You have to know what you're going to say in every situation. You have to have answers ready for your behavioral questions. Everybody's heard of behavioral style questions. Very important.
Yes.
In the latter stages of the interview process, that's when they start asking a lot of those questions, and you have to be ready. So the key is really preparation and intelligent questioning and attitude as well. I always tell my candidates, try and stand out in terms of your attitude. If you really show that you want the job and you're passionate, sometimes that alone can trump someone else who might be a little bit more laid back and a little bit more complacent, because the hiring manager might say, you know what, that person's more hungry. I want that person. So there are a few different ways for you there.
Wow. So many insights. You have given so many new insights today. It's amazing. No wonder you got 20 years of experience in this field.
Oh, well, I'm glad to be of service. I mean, I think, it's just really important. I can't stress this enough. Preparation. I just can't say that more than 20 times, because it is so important. Every aspect of your job search has to be, including your mindset, has to be prepared and articulated to perfection, or close to perfection if you can. And practice makes perfect. The more you do it, the better you get. When I was in my time looking for roles, when I started, I was terrible. And then at a certain point, I got better and better, because I interviewed more and more and more, to the point where I got very confident. So that it's just practice, and you have to do the work. You can't expect to not do the work if you want the results.
The more you sweat in the practice, the less you bleed in the water.
Yep, 100%. I mean, and I just can't stress that enough, because I see it every day. And if people just dedicate themselves to that practice, it will. And people like Career Launch Australia and Rajiv can help you with that. I think it's just such an important thing, because it will fast track your success.
Absolutely. Siddhant is asking, is it possible to secure a job after having 3 years experience in India, but no local experience in Australia? Yes, absolutely possible, Siddhant.
Of course,
As
absolutely.
long as you have work rights, as long as you have, PR visa to work in Australia, yes, you can get a job in Australia, and we can help you with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And as long as you're prepared, again, you have to prepare your story, prepare your process, and articulate your story well. And then there's no reason why you can't stand out and be hired.
typically when people ask me, people contact me, I said to them that you will need at least 3 months for preparing before you come to Australia. And I'm so glad that you said exactly that, Darren, because I would say about 95% of our clients, they connect with us and they attend the mentoring program while they are overseas. So that way they are fully prepared. They got all the tools and techniques in their arsenal that they can start using immediately after they come to Australia. Wants to thank you and me for answering my questions, and this session was very informative and helpful.
Oh,
Thank you.
fantastic. I'm glad we could help. Eob, that's great. I hope everybody really gets as much value out of it as possible. And, as well as that, just we'll probably discuss this later on, but there's loads of great insights on my website and on my LinkedIn profile. I do lots of work with video, with blog posts, with all sorts of different content. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and look at my website regularly. There's loads of content that can help you with your job searching, constantly every day that we put out there to help job seekers.
Yeah, so Darren's website is www.saulrecruitment, SAUL recruitment.com.au. He's available on LinkedIn under the same name. Yes, you can most definitely, if anybody of you needs any help from Darren, particularly with the IT jobs, if you're our client, of course, we will forward your resume and all those things to Darren. But if you're still not our client, we can most definitely help you in terms of preparing you for the IT jobs or any other jobs for that matter from any field while you're overseas. Now, just the last question, Darren.
Sure.
What practical advice would you give to the CLA clients and our viewers for securing the jobs, the perfect jobs in Australia?
I would just say again, what you do exactly what you're doing. If you're already working with Career Launch Australia, half the battle is already won. You're doing the work. You're preparing yourself. You're preparing your mindset. You're preparing your story. I would just say practice, 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 and be prepared to go on that journey and know that you will succeed. It's just a matter of time.
That's all for today, Darren. Thank you so much for your time and for your the intelligent answers that you have provided to all the questions. And I'm sure everybody will love the way you have answered the questions. And of course, your experience is shown in each and every of the answers that you have given. So thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough. And on behalf of Career Launch Australia, I would once again like to appreciate your time. And let's catch up very, very soon. So bye for now.
Thanks very much, everybody.